Have you ever felt completely and utterly stuck? You know, like your life is a locked room and you've lost the key? Well, today we're going to look at this powerful story about a guy who started with absolutely nothing and then found a single piece of paper that gave him a 90-day deadline to change his entire reality. Let's dig in and see how he did it.
So, these were the words. Daniel finds him on a torn piece of paper, just stuck to a shop window. 90 days, that is all you need. Just a few simple words, right? But for him, they sparked a question that he hadn't let himself ask in years. What if? What if that's actually true? What if 90 days was all it took?
So before this little spark, where was Daniel at? To really get the power of this journey, we have to understand just how deep the hole was that he had to climb out of.
Okay, so picture this. Daniel is 29, and his life has completely stalled out. He's isolated, he's adrift, and he's living in this tiny little room that feels more like a cage than a home. He literally has nothing. No money, no friends to call, and maybe worst of all, absolutely no plan to get out.
And this really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? It shows how his internal mindset perfectly mirrored his external reality. On the one hand, you see he believed his situation was forever, and so his reality became a locked room. He just stopped fighting, so he had no purpose. He had given up. It's the perfect picture of what rock bottom really looks and feels like.
So, after finding that note, something shifts. Daniel makes a choice. He actually writes the number 90 on a piece of paper and sticks it to his wall. And this right here brings us to the very first and probably the most important phase of his whole transformation, the simple but incredibly difficult art of just showing up.
You know, what's so interesting about this timeline is that his change didn't start with some giant leap of faith. I mean, look at day one. The first step was simply getting up and walking outside. That's it. This shows us the first real principle in action. Momentum always starts with the smallest possible step. And by day 10, he's actually walking into a community center, all built on that one tiny start.
And then he sees this. Just show up. Man, those 3 words changed everything. For someone who felt like he had absolutely nothing to offer, just show up was an invitation he could finally accept. It was like permission to start without needing to have all the answers. It was exactly what he needed to hear.
So he goes in, and at the community center, he meets this guy, Marcus, who becomes this kind of quiet, steady mentor. And when Daniel messes up, which he does, a lot at first, Marcus doesn't lecture him or make him feel stupid. He just calmly shows him the right way to do it. And that created this safe space for Daniel to try and fail and then try again. And this is a huge moment. After days of trying and failing, Daniel finally gets something right, and Marcus just gives him this simple, quiet nod. Here's the key insight, right? Earned validation is so much more powerful than empty praise. Like the quote says, it hit him harder because it was real, it was earned, and that nod became his reason to keep coming back.
Okay, so this is where things really start to pick up steam. You can feel it, right? The consistent act of just showing up, of trying, of earning that little bit of validation, it creates its own momentum. Small, consistent actions begin to crack open the door to real opportunities.
So, through Marcus, Daniel gets this small gig helping a woman named Sarah with her food stand. And yeah, the money was important, obviously, but it was what the money represented that really mattered. It was tangible proof that his time and his effort had actual value. For someone who was convinced he was useless, this was everything.
And now, things start to accelerate. It's only been about 2 weeks since he first showed up, and his reputation for being reliable and hardworking is already getting around. This small business owner, Ruth, she sees him working and makes him an offer on the spot. This is the moment where all that consistency pays off in a huge way.
So Daniel says yes to Ruth, and for the next month, he's thriving. He's learning, he's growing, he even gets a better apartment. But then on day 60, just when everything finally feels stable, a crisis hits, and it threatens to undo everything he's built.
A huge competitor, a big chain store, moves into the area, and it threatens to completely bankrupt Ruth's small, handmade business. All of a sudden, all the progress Daniel has made is about to just disappear. The solid ground he's standing on is suddenly gone.
I mean, just look at what they were up against. This was a classic David versus Goliath scenario. Ruth had quality, she had a real story, but the big company had massive warehouses and prices so low that there was just no way she could compete. And almost overnight, her customers started to vanish. Now, in this moment of crisis, the old Daniel, he would have just given up. But the new Daniel, the one who's been built over 60 days of showing up, he sees an opening. And this reveals another huge principle. Consistent action builds resilience. He realizes, okay, we can't beat them on price, but we can beat them on our story, on our truth. This is his big moment of clarity.
So Daniel comes up with a plan. It's a terrifying, uncomfortable door-to-door plan to tell Ruth's story directly to the entire neighborhood. And this is the moment where he goes from being someone who just shows up to someone who actually leads.
On his first day of knocking on doors, telling Ruth's story and asking people to come back, this is the number of people who said yes. Just 4.
Now, think about that framing for a second. 4 yeses out of 30 doors. That's a staggering rejection rate. But to the new Daniel, it wasn't a failure. It was a start. It wasn't a victory, sure, but it wasn't nothing. And it was just enough to keep him going.
And he did keep going, day after day after day. And this is the result of that persistence. Slowly, people started coming back. Then word started to spread organically, just through conversation. The community chose to support the real story. And by day 85, Ruth's business wasn't just saved, it was stronger than ever.
This right here, this is the real core of his transformation. Marcus points out that Daniel didn't just find a job or make some money. Through his actions, through his consistency, his refusal to quit, he built a whole new identity. He became someone that other people could actually trust and believe in.
So Daniel's journey from a locked room to a business partner in 90 days, it wasn't magic. It was a process. So let's just distill this whole story down into the core principle that you can actually apply to your own life.
And that brings us to the big takeaway. The 90-day principle, it isn't some secret formula. It's the simple but incredibly powerful truth that real transformation comes from the daily, repeated decision to just not give up. It's about showing up, trying, and continuing to move forward one day at a time.
Daniel's story proves that anyone, from any starting point, can change everything. And it all begins with a single decision that you repeat every single morning. So the only question left is the one right here. What will yours be?